Hello, my name is Darrel Sisson. I'm from Houston, Texas, here in the United States. And I'm going to be reading a paper by Dr. Sarfarazi, but I'd like to thank him first for giving me the opportunity to be here and to read this paper. And also that I could be a part of all of his groups. I'm really learning a lot, and it was a real blessing to me to be able to find his groups. I actually found them almost by accident, but there are no accidents in life. Things happen with a purpose by design, and these were very beneficial to me. So I'm really happy to be here. The paper I'm going to be reading today is called Negative Aliens, Reverse Consciousness, NARC Technology, the real truth behind the ultrafast 5G. Let's go start first with the abstract.
Excuse me, Larry,
Yes,
let me just tell them how to find this paper. And then I'll give back the screen to you, okay?
sure, absolutely.
So let me share a screen here and tell them basically where the paper is. Okay, so the paper that Darrel is going to read is actually, let me see. It's actually the negative alien reverse consciousness, which I call it NARC technology, as he said, the real truth behind the ultrafast 5G. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you is that these papers are actually put on WordPress.com. You know, you see WordPress.com. There are 5 blogs in there. And in order to get to those things, you can Google them, you can go on Facebook, I have posted them somewhere, or you can just go to any paper you find on Google and Facebook or whatever, and click on it, as long as it goes to WordPress.com. Make sure it doesn't go to academia, which I've started putting papers in there too. And most importantly, it doesn't go to somebody's website, because people reblog the papers. And if you click on that, the link takes you to there and you see the paper, but you know what I'm saying? But it is their version of dealing with it. You want to go to the original paper. By the way, they have been charging for this service, okay? That either they demand you to register with them, pay a monthly fee, or they used to charge actually on a page basis, which I put a stop to that. I don't think that is there anymore. But anyway, you want to go to our archival system, okay? And this is what it is. So anyway, any paper you go on top, do you see this? There are menus, like says paper on creation, paper on human energetics. In particular, it says negative alien reverse consciousness NARC agenda strategy. So this is, if you click on that, you're going to go to a whole list of papers, right? And the one that Gary chose is down here somewhere, you know? So let's see, right here, this is the one. No, it's reading this one. Where is it, Gary? This is
I believe it's number 7.
Number 7. Yes, that's right. He's much faster than I am. Faster, 5G, and he's faster also. Very good. But you see, it goes to the same paper again. But anyway, you can, once you go in there, you have access to the whole library virtually, okay? And in here, it may appear multidimensional consciousness, or micromechanics of cosmos, or actually quantum mechanics of cosmos, or human energetics, genetics, physiognomy, etc. It may say ascension, or it may say spirituality 101 or spiritual science 101. It doesn't matter. There are 5 different areas on the server, but I don't use them as blogs. I set them up as blogs, but I don't use them as blogs like I use the groups on Facebook. I do everything on Facebook. So here it is. That's how to navigate and go there. The other way that you can do is just go to academia.edu. And again, if you go on Google and just type my name, all kinds of information comes. How to go to the Facebook, how to go to different groups, how to go to even our own channels, video channels, all this stuff. So you'll find that information if you're patient enough. They're all listed. And a bunch of papers are going to be listed. And actually, it may give you a 5-page of stuff. At the end, there is an option in page 5 or 6 that it says, do you want to see the whole list? And if you click on that, it'll go maybe as much as 40 pages of stuff. I've published a lot of papers. They're all over Google. You know what I'm saying? So it's not difficult to find me at all. Anyway, so if you go in there, you can go to Academia EDU. And Academia EDU, you can search for my name, Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi. And even if you just type Mohsen P before you do AUL, the name pops up on the screen. You can click on it. It'll go to this that I have. And this, what you see in here, is the list of the papers, right? Now, the paper that Darrel has chosen is in here, but I wrote this paper a while back, about over 2 years ago, and that's about the time that I started with academia. I started putting things on academia, so you're gonna have to scroll down a long way, but it will give you the paper. And let me see, I didn't, okay, but trust me, it's there, and if you click on it, you will see it. The difference between the two things, by the way, is that, you know, on the Facebook, initially I put them on JPEG files, as JPEG files, which are like pictures of every page. But later, you know, I changed, or actually I haven't changed, I also included the word text. And the good thing about the word text is that you can reblog it easily. You don't have to retype stuff. You know, JPEG, you have to retype it, you know. And also you can use translators. A lot of people said that, you know, they don't understand English, but they can use these translators that reads the words and translates it to them accordingly. So, you know, from that point of view. Now, these are in PDF files. It's another format, which is usually used for documentation, business, all that kind of stuff. And also papers are usually published in PDF, you know. So anyway, if you go in there, you might like the PDF actually better. You can do the same thing, you can read the stuff, and also, you know, they might be bigger. I mean, of course, you can always change the screen and all that stuff. Anyway, enough of said of that. So that's where the papers are, okay? And this is the one that's going to be reading. The other thing I wanted to tell you there is that I have formed a new YouTube channel that's called the Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi channel. And the logo of it says Spiritual Science 101. I don't know if you can read that, but if you click on that, you see that. And you will see the paper, this. And after this interview is done, you're going to see Darrel in here, right in here, okay? So it's just going on. As you see, last week we've done all this from here, starting here. There are a few interviews I also put that I did last month and early this month. So it's growing. Now, what I do ask you is just to go ahead and subscribe, because you would support the effort. And also, the more you subscribe, the more seriously YouTube will take it. They will show up everywhere. It's much easier to get access to them and all of that, okay? So with that introduction, I'm going to give it back to Darrel, and I'm available here. I'm sitting. I'm very, eagerly going to be listening to Darrel, reading it, and then I'm available here for any questions and discussions that Darrel would like to conduct. Okay, so here we go, Darrel. Back to you, and I'm sorry that
Oh, no.
but I usually start that and then your introduction. So
Sure.
that's go ahead.
Okay. Okay. The proposal adaptation of 5G mobile phones together with its underlying technologies is reviewed, and the real agenda behind its introduction has been explicated. Elucidated that the reason for the inception of 5G has nothing to do with our good Samaritans, corporate crazy to award humanity with a new level of convenience and comfort that may be backed by new or good advanced technology in the light of progress. In contrast, the real agenda behind the introduction in the long run has everything to do with transforming our solar organic consciousness in favor of a cybernetic transhumanistic society, in conference with protecting the negative aliens' interest and further subjugate us and to unconsciousness enslavement. The way humanity can be more directly controlled to conform to the model of a hive mind-like society, like the Star Wars so-called war collective, to suit the parasitic vampiric need for the negative aliens, and that's why it's being proposed that there should be smart cells and localized control towers installed on every lamppost and building in the urban areas to interfere with what is now portrayed as ultra-fast 5G mobile users who could benefit from its redundant features of a high efficiency data transfer and small latency, and more congruent with the need for a machine-like transhumanistic cybernetic collective as opposed to solar consciousness beings whose organic health environment will be greatly endangered by the inception of the EMF radiation produced and propagated everywhere by such a technology. Let's go with the introduction. Telecommunication companies hope to debut the first commercial 5G networks in the early 2020s. And for the masterminds of these artificial technologies promise a package under the disguise of an ultra-fast 5G service with a primary attractive and sexy feature of an ultra-low latency and record-breaking speeds and high-efficiency data transfer, which is to be commonly utilized by humanity in the next 5 years. Companies and industry groups contend that 5G will handle far more traffic than many higher speeds than the basic stations that make up today's cellular networks. 5G promises to be based on the brand new technologies. To understand how 5G will differ from today's 4G network, it is helpful to review 5 newly proposed technologies classified under millimeter waves and small cells, massive MINO, M-I-N-O, full duplex, and beamforming, and consider exactly what each will signify for the human wireless service. And besides the 5G technology, future smartphone users, VR gamers, and autonomous cars are to be equipped with wireless network that can be used on the everyday basis. So let's start by reviewing some of the basic groundwork for 5G technology. Millimeter waves. One way to purportedly have more users, more data, faster service, and less drop connections is to simply transfer signals on a whole new brand of the spectrum, and that was never been used before mobile service before. This is what is referred to as broadcasting on the millimeter waves. This technology uses higher frequencies than the radio waves that have been long used for mobile phones. Until now, only operators of satellites and radar systems use millimeter waves. Millimeter waves are broadcast at frequencies between 30 and 300 gigahertz, compared to the bands below 6 hertz that were used for mobile service devices in the past. Note that faster processing speeds require more bandwidth. Thus, this is why 5G technology is to use bandwidth of the extremely high frequency millimeter wave, MW, that typically operates between 300 gigahertz and 30 gigahertz, and 300 gigahertz. They're called millimeter waves because they vary in length from 1 to 10 millimeters compared to the radio frequency that serves today's smartphones, which measure tens of centimeters in length. High frequency millimeter waves travel a short distance. Thus, contrary to 4G towers, the necessary infrastructure will require many smaller, barely noticeable cell towers situated closer together with more input and output ports. This means putting wireless antennas every few feet on every lamppost and utility pole in your neighborhood. As of 2015, there were 308,000 wireless antennas on cell phone towers in buildings. That is double the number of the year 2002. Yet 5G will require exponentially, more and more smaller towers of cells placed much closer together. And some cellular providers have already begun to use them to send data between stationary points, such as 2 base stations. This using millimeter waves to connect mobile users with a nearby base station would be an entirely new approach. And there's a significant drawback to millimeter waves. That is, they cannot easily travel through buildings and obstacles. In contrast, they tend to be absorbed by organic material such as plants, animals, humans, leading to significant interference. And this is the major drawback with respect to millimeter waves, is they are undoubtedly damaging to organic life form. Note that the mobile technology utilizes bands of the radio frequency spectrum. Thus, there will be bursts of radio frequency waves emitted by each being seemingly everywhere. And they will be much harder to avoid because these towers will be globally everywhere, particularly in populated areas. The 5G network will most likely replace traditional cellular towers with another new technology that is referred to as small cells. Small cells are portable miniature base stations that require minimum power to operate, but they must typically be placed between every 250 meters or so throughout cities. This means putting smart cells almost every light pole and atop every building. To prevent signals from being dropped, cameras could install thousands of these stations in a city to form a dense network that acts like a relay group, receiving signals from other base stations and sending data to users at any location. While traditional cell networks have also come to rely on an increasingly number of base stations, achieving 5G performance will require even greater infrastructure. And antennas on small cells, can be much smaller than traditional antennas if they were transmitting any millimeter waves. The size difference is the very feature that demands putting smart cells on light poles and atop buildings throughout the urban areas. Having more stations means frequencies that one station uses to connect with devices in one area can be used by another station in a different area to be used by another customer. What is more, the sheer number of small cells required to build 5G network, they make it hard to get up into rural areas, which also indicates a much smaller population in some areas. However, to the masterminds of the 5G technology, not only is this a deterrent condition, but is advantageous to the purpose it is geared to interfacing with more bodies of human population, to ultimately control the crux of the technology to move towards promoting artificial intelligence, cybernetics, and transhumanism. In addition to broadcasting over millimeter waves, 5G base stations will also require many more antennas than the base stations of today's cellular networks. This signifies the invent of another new technology referred to as massive MIMO. Massive MIO, the 4 base stations that have dozens of parts of antennas that will handle all cellular traffic. This entails 8 for transformers and 4 for receivers. But 5G base stations can support about 100 ports. It means many more antennas fit on a single array. This feature means a base station can send and receive signals from many more users at once. In fact, this equates to increasing the number of mobile networks by a factor of 22 or greater. It would be like living within an artificial world of virtual reality that describes the very concept of phantom timeline. This technology is called massive MIMO, which stands for multiple input, multiple output. MIMO describes wireless systems that use 2 or more transmitters and receivers to send and receive more data at once. Massive MIO entails having dozens of antennas on a single array. MIMO already found on some 4G base stations, But massive MIO promises more spectrum efficiency, which is the measure of how many bits of data can be transmitted to a certain number of users per second. It is as if 4G technology is not as fast enough, even 3G for that matter, would be worthy of an organic life structure without being practically turned to robotic machines or cybernetic life forms, ever being plagued by the hive mind insects which constantly artificially receiving and transmitting data. It actually reminds me of the Borg collective Star Trek, which to be uploaded data by a central queen or a collecting gestalt of official entities who are structured in a clear hierarchical pyramidal format indigenous to reptilian and insectoid negative aliens. Installing so many more antennas to handle cellular traffic also causes more interference if those signals cross. This, of course, calls for an invent of yet another technology referred as beamforming. Beamforming is a traffic signal system for cellular base stations that presumably identifies the most efficient data delivery route to a particular user, and thus it reduces interference for nearby users in the process. No doubt it must be directed by an artificial intelligence that can selectively operate as it seems fit with respect to which unit to which interference to deliver data to. Depending on the situation and technology, there are several ways for 5G networks to implement this. Beamforming can be used in conjunction with massive MIMO arrays that would make more efficient use of the spectrum around to suit its transmission purposes. The primary challenge for massive MIMO is to reduce interference with transmitting more information from many more antennas at once. However, at massive MIMO base stations, as the system is controlled by artificial intelligence that automatically makes use of signal processing algorithms, it can pilot the desired transmission route through the air to the target user. Accordingly, it is possible to send individual data packets in many different directions, bouncing them off buildings and other objects in a precisely coordinated pattern in which a computerized artificial intelligence system operates. The choreographing the packets, movements, and arrival time, beamforming can allow many users and antennas on a massive MIMO array to exchange much more information at once, which translates into interfering with and controlling the masses. For millimeter waves, beamforming is primarily suitable to address the problem of cellular signals being easily blocked by objects with a tendency to weaken over long distances. Furthermore, beamforming can also focus a signal in a concentrated beam to point only in the direction of a particular user, rather than broadcasting in many directions at once. This way, a particular person can be interfaced with any time through a pre-cybernetic form of existence, which the cell phone becomes the extension of the person to be controlled. This approach also strengthens the signal's chances of arriving intact and reduces the interference from outside units. Besides boosting data rates, by broadcasting over millimeter waves and beefing up spectrum efficiency with a massive MIMO, it also is possible to achieve a high throughput and low latency that the 5G, turn of the page, technology promises through what is referred to as full duplex, which modifies the way antennas deliver and receive data. Full duplex. Today's beta stations and cell phones rely on transceivers that must take turns in transmitting and receiving information over the same frequency and operate on different frequencies if a user wishes to transmit and receive information at the same time. With 5G, a transceiver will be able to transmit and receive data at the same time on the same frequency that is characteristic of that unit. This technology is known as full duplex, which could double the capacity of wireless networks at their most fundamental physical layer. Picture two people talking at the same time, but still able to understand one another. This means their conversation could take half as long, and their next discussion could start sooner. Such a scenario again reminds me of the Star Trek Borg Collective. In fact, the military industrial complex already uses full duplex technology. To achieve full duplex in such personal devices as 5G mobile phone, the circuit design must incorporate the capacity of routing the incoming and outgoing signals as they do not collide or interfere with one another while the antennas is transmitting and receiving data at the same time. Note that radio waves have the tendency to travel both forward and backward on the same frequency, a principle that in the communication field is referred to as reciprocity. However, this already has been demonstrated that silicon transistors can be assembled and act like high-speed switches to halt the backward roll of the waves, enabling them to transmit and receive signals at the same frequency at once. As to the drawback to the full duplex, create more signal interference to an antenna both speaking and listening at the same time. This problem may be elevated to special echo canceling technology. Dangers of the health concern. Low radio and microwave frequencies can generate heat in the body, can be dangerous. They can certainly burn the skin. In addition, they can carcinogenic, causing both skin and brain cancers. In 2011, the World Health Organization classified radio frequency radiation, RFR, being carcinogenic, potentially causing cancer. More specifically, it is asserted that the use of mobile phones could lead to specific forms of brain tumors. Many other studies have associated low-level RFR exposure to deterrent to human health. More specifically, research studies have shown that the single DNA and double strain breaks could occur that in turn lead to cancer. Also, scientists have identified oxidative damage causing tissue deterioration, which leads to premature aging. RFR exposure also has been reported to interrupt proper cell metabolism, and particularly disruption of brain glucose metabolism. It causes increased brain barrier absorbency, as well as causing melatonin reduction that accumulates in insomnia, as well as risking for brain cancer. This leads to generation of stress proteins that can also lead to countless diseases. In particular, the new 5G technology uses high-frequency MMW bands, which give off similar dose of radiation as airborne scanners. In general, adoption of 5G will mean more signals carrying more energy through the high-frequency spectrum, with more transmitters located closer to people's homes and workplaces. This considerably increases exposure to more potent RFR existing abundantly all around us. This justifiable apprehension can exist with regard to potential risk of both organic solar consciousness, human beings, as well as to the environmental health at large that includes all organic life. For example, one serious concern of the adverse effects of MMWs on human skin. Since overly 90% of microwave radiation is ordinarily absorbed by the epidermis, human skin basically would act as an absorbing sponge for such microwave radiations. As increasingly apathetic and discouraging this might sound, it's commonly considered acceptable as long as this is violating wavelengths or greater than the skin layer dimensions. But MMWs even violate this threshold criterion. In fact, the sweat ducts in the skin's upper layer act like helical antennas, which are specialized antennas constructed specifically to respond to electromagnetic fields that may be typified by those applied to the skin. With millions of sweat glands and 5G increased RFR needs, it is clear that our bodies will become more and more conducive to radiation. The full ramifications of the fact are particularly alarming for more vulnerable members of the public, such as babies, pregnant women, and the elderly. Furthermore, MMWs may cause our pain receptors to flare up, as such waves are construed to be damaging sources or stimulus. In fact, the U.S. Department of Defense of the government uses RFR as a crowd-controlled dispersal method in which MMWs are directly at crowds to make their skin feel like it's burning. This way, MMWs have the ability to basically microwave populations to death from afar. This irony that the telecommunication industry wants to fill our atmosphere with MMWs, which is motivated not providing us with a better, more advanced technology, but it's controlling measure more fitting for a cybernetic transhumanistic society that is sleepers that can be controlled easily as a docile race of semi-humans. As U.S. National Technology Programs, NTP, studies noted that male rats exposed to RFR for 9 hours a day or over 2 years developed rare forms of tumors in the brain and the heart, and rats of both sexes developed DNA damage. If these findings transmute to humans, the widespread increase of cell phone use could have a significant impact on populations. Thus, the NTP studies serve to review the debate about the potential harmful effects of cell phones on human health. It has also caused a significant shift in American Cancer Society's understanding of radiation and cancer that compelled them to state that our ignorance of RFR's impact on human health could be compared to our previous obliviousness to the connection between smoking and lung cancer. Other animal research worldwide illustrates how microwave radiation in general and MMWs in particular can damage the eyes, immune system, cell growth rate, even bacterial resistance. An experiment at the Medical Research Institute, Keswana Medical University, suggests that low-level MMWs cause lens of opacity, I believe is pronounced, which is a precursor to cataracts in rats' eyes. A Chinese study demonstrated that an 8-hour microwave radiation damaged rabbits' lens epithelial cells. A Pakistani study concluded the exposure to mobile phones EMF prevented chicken embryo retinal cells from properly differentiating. The Russian study revealed that exposing healthy mice to low-intensity, extremely high-frequency electromagnetic radiation severely compromised their immune systems. And a 2016 Armenian study concluded that low-level MMWs not only depressed the growth of certain bacteria, but also changed certain properties in activity level of the cells. Again, if these findings translate to humans, our rampant cell phone would likely control profound adverse health effects. An increase in MMWs as more bandwidth is introduced could further complicate the matter. Excuse me. And what's most also important to note is that 5G technologies will not only have a profound impact on human health, but also on the health of all living organic organisms, including plants. The impact on the environment. 5G harms the planet too. MMWs may pose a serious threat to plant health. An Armenian study suggests that low-intensity MMWs cause a stress that damages cells that include wheat. Thus, it could contaminate our food supply. 5G infrastructure could also pose a threat to our planet's atmosphere. Network implementation will require deployment of many short lifespan satellites via suborbital rockets propelled by hydrocarbon rocket engines. And launching many new of these will introduce high enough black carbon into the atmosphere to pollute global atmospheric conditions, affecting distribution of ozone and temperature. Solid state rocket exhaust contains chlorine, an ozone destroying chemical. 5G will also potentially threaten natural ecosystems. Low-level, non-ionizing microwave radiation affects birds and bee health. It drives birds from their nests and causes plume deterioration, locomotion problems, and induces survivorship and accentuates death. And bee populations suffer from reduced egg-laying abilities, queen bees, and smaller colony sizes. This, in turn, has a profound adverse effect on the planet, ecosystem, as well as humanity, as bees are known to be instrumental in preserving organic life on this planet. Generally, research studies suggest that RFR adversely affects plants, animals, and humans. In conclusion, 5G is deterrent to all living creatures on our planet. Excuse me 1 minute. Propaganda disseminated to the public. Despite all these threats, the big corporations who control the economic, political systems referred to as the corporateocracy, I believe it is, as well as the interests of the negative aliens on this planet, have an apathetic attitude toward these issues, effectuated by the threat of 5G technology giving a cold shoulder to respect to commissioning research studies and transparency regarding the human organic life hazards and our planetary environment. And it seems that there will not be any formalized research on the effect of 5G technology on human health or environmental safety that is even readily admitted by the government and communication industry. Clearly, if no studies are done, there is no transparency, alluring to the perception that there is no harm done. Many U.S. states have already gone ahead with 5G plants. Despite private research showing serious threats to humans and the planet, the FCC chairman has announced intentions to go ahead with this project without even mentioning a single word about the dangers. They are selling this technology, and its effective usage to us is faster browsing speeds, and while in turn, will not even hardly notice any difference. Excuse me. As it is with the case of tiny percentage of so-called elites who have proverbially sold their souls to the devil, these traitors to humanity will continue making a fortune through 5G. And of course, which is more companies and governments again will be giving unprecedented amounts of power over civilians to continue holding the interest of negative aliens regard to consciousness, environment, enslavement, to humanity on this planet. The state of Hawaii has stopped 5G and smart meters by collectively threatening to charge every person who installs such meters with liability for any health problems residents may suffer. Moreover, many scientists and other concerned individuals have already started their petitions to warn the public of potential of 5G health hazards. What to do about the problem? Understand the nature of electromagnetic fields, EMFs, and the behaviors. We are light beings who are very sensitive to effects of electromagnetic energies with a spectrum of different frequencies. Understand that the radio waves and microwaves present their own health hazards to humanity. So get a good quality radiation detector and assess the extent of EMF and ELF, low frequency, extra low frequency radiations around you to know whether or not you are high risk of EMS. Protect yourself with EMF shield to mark and protect you from hotspots. Try a patented product that neutralizes the harmful effects of mobile phones and other EMF emitting devices on humans. Limit your exposure. Use an anti-radiation headset or a speaker mode while talking on a cell phone. Refuse to use 5G phones and devices and discourage those who know from doing so. Refuse to buy any smart devices. Do not get a smart meter. Put these high levels of 5G radiation these put high levels of 5G radiation right in your home. Join the growing number of dissenters. Get active with them. Do as the Hawaiians have done it. Threaten smart meter and 5G installers with liability. Spread the word. Please share this article at your discretion. Summary and conclusion. The next generation of wireless networks promises mobile users faster data speeds and more efficient data transfer with less latency. The fundamental question is what exactly humanity would ever want with respect to anything that could be classified as ultra-fast, need for more efficiency data transfer, and with no delay in response, which is referred to as low latency. As far as the speed of data transfer is concerned, packaged under the fanciful title of ultra-fast 5G technology. This translates to the human user being able to download a high-definition film in under a second, as compared to what it now takes a mere 10 minutes with a 4G LTE. Until now, mobile broadband networks have designed to meet the needs of the people. We can access information faster now than ever before in history. Our current 4G generation broadcast cellular network platform, 4G, allows us to transmit faster data than 3G and everything that precedes that. Going ultra fast is hardly a feature that be considered as essential or significant or even all that useful to the human user. In fact, the terms of organic life that is redundant and upgrade that is deterrent to humanity's health and all over solar consciousness beings surrounded it. However, to a machine such as cybernetics, this may be a form of significance. Thus, 5G seems to more be suitable to the needs of machines such as cybernetics than that of organic humans. In respect, this interstructural in this place, the ideology of mobile communication will find entirely different meaning. In this regard, the mobile operation can be translated to the incorporated internally within the body, giving birth to a new form of artificial intelligence by way of cybernetics and transhumanism, which is no doubt the ultimate goal of negative aliens to fully control our consciousness, ultimately accumulating in the death of human soul. The communication industry also marketing this technology is something that would be more pertinent to such network applications as autonomous vehicles, virtual reality, and Internet of Things, is an evolved artificial intelligent nature. With respect to the question of latency and the rate of data transfer, 4G has a 50 millisecond delay, while via 5G transfer can be reduced to a 1 millisecond delay, And all for what reason? The human beings will not even notice the difference. It will promise that this machine-like operation that permits near seamless communication with so-called ultra-fast 5G technology, the promise of super efficient data transfer, faster transmission times, and low latency necessitates breaking data down to a smaller packages, accumulating in small cells extended on every light bulb building. And since it operates based upon principle of radio frequency waves, it means having such rays all over us that are harmful to organic life, including plants, animals, and us humans as solar conscious beings to the environmental of our planet. Thus, this will only create a whole host of trouble for us organic solar conscious beings together with our planet. However, it seems to meet the needs of a society run by artificial intelligence, in which there is a need or interest to communicate with a bunch of cybernetics or transhumanist individuals rather than with regular human beings. I have a question, or a comment, in other words. In other words, the negative aliens are using this in order to control humanity through their consciousness, through their cell phone. If they send a frequency to control, they'll be able to implement thoughts into the human consciousness. Is that true? Is that how this would work?
What they're trying to do, Gerald, is to basically be able to interface with every soul.
Okay.
So they would, it works in conjunction with all this nanotechnologies that is through this vaccine.
Okay.
And everything else that's coming. They want to progressively turn an organic consciousness being that so far has been used as a battery generator.
Okay.
With energy being siphoned, that you know how that works through possession, attachment, and all this stuff. They want to bring this under the auspices of a hive-like mentality or system that they can directly interface with your brain, and a lot more serious and dire than even V2K, voice to skull transmissions and stuff. So it's always that. So basically, after a while, they take over the control of your central nervous system, okay, in the tradition of what you've seen in Body Snatchers or in some good movies in the past. And the nicest one that I can think of is the Star Trek and the Borg technology. I don't know if you've seen those episodes.
I've heard of them, yes.
Yeah, except that's very, very dramatized, and they show that immediately they, punch through your neck and put all the nanites in you, and you start changing immediately, and then they take off certain body parts and put cybernetics to to make you more efficient to their use. Okay. But the crux of the thing is that they want to see there. Think about it this way: you have organic consciousness being solar, organic consciousness being, which your consciousness is transmitted to you via God in an open loop of free energy while you quantumly vibrating back and forth towards God. Okay. So you go away from God, you spend the energy in self-discovery or life sojourns, whatever, and then you go back and you refurbish yourself. God will refurbish your energies, right? So this is a very efficient, wonderful system that's very natural. Okay, it is done with unconditional love for the sake of operation of the entire cosmos without any need for payback.
Right.
God doesn't even expect you to even say thank you. If you say thank you, it's good for you.
Right.
You, honest person, and it protects you from the things that negative aliens have introduced to us through what I call always referred to as the 7 cardinal sins or the 7 deadly sins that they brought to us. You know, that on top there is the selfishness or false pride, they call it in the biblical sense. False pride, which is, you know, narcissistic, elitism, egotism, all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? On one side, you've got this system that's been working and meant to be, it was created that way by such a being, magnificent being, as what we call God, okay? Now you've got these people who have become outcast. They can't receive the energy from God. So they've become parasitic. And in order to become parasitic or vampiric, they have to feed upon our energies, solar consciousness beings, okay?
Right.
So it has created a polarity effect. And I don't want to encourage you to think about duality, because duality is nonsense.
Okay.
Or the concept of evil, accepting that it just is, it just exists, it need not exist, it need not be. It's something they created, the negative aliens, because they didn't want to redeem themselves, going back and becoming like the rest and repent in a way, but not in a biblical sense, in a much more intelligent sense. But they, you know, they looted and they massacred people and took them into bondage and enslavement and all this stuff, and they confiscated, pillaged, ravaged their everything. And they don't want to give up, because now they think they're better than. And actually, that's why it started. The narcissism. It started with narcissism, ended up with a psychopathic type behavior. But they think they're better than us or all the organic consciousness beings.
Okay.
Okay. So they've created this polarity system. Now, how do they maintain it? So either they're going to self-consume and die and gone, or they devised AI technology. Unfortunately, or I don't know, unfortunately, definitely, but inadvertently, they were privy to a lot of information from God, you know, consciousness mechanics, how it works and stuff. So some of these entities, their ancestors came from much higher heavens, you know, higher universes, but they got little by little evicted from there, and now they're here, which is the lowest God's world, which it's turned upside down. It's not God's world anymore, but it's becoming again.
Okay.
So they have created this AI technology to maintain their miserable existence. Okay?
Okay.
Does that answer your question? I think.
Yes, sir. Very much so.
Go back to your question. What did you say? I want to make sure I address it completely, because sometimes I try to, you know, build the whole picture so you totally understand and absorb. These AI technology, the nanotechnology that comes from them, okay, these are little machines basically that are programmed, okay? And they get inside your body and they start taking over your body. It's a form of a possession. But if they overpower you, okay, then they've got control of your central nervous system. They have effectively hijacked you. Now, in the past, the negative aliens only used an overlay, like holographic inserts, to what is it, dupe you into mind control, with mind controlling technique, to do self-destructive stuff.
Right.
You know, all these derailed sex, materialism, all kinds of addictions, we can go on and on and on, okay? I'm going to be writing better. I've written a lot, but I haven't published the full papers yet. Okay. So here's what we have. They're At that point, they were happy because they would attach themselves, or Archon created these SPEs, suppressor parasitic entities. They would just attach themselves to you, and little by little, they mimic your inner voice and start telling you things that you think it's you, like rape that woman, that thing, do this, and they're all self-destructive, but you don't understand because they work on certain things, certain dogma of belief or behavior that's to start with egotism. So ego and narcissism and selfishness and basically service to self only. This is what this planet right now tremendously suffer from. And they are so much into trouble, have been in trouble for millennia. I mean, the concept of conditional love has become some sort of a cliche, and people say, what conditional? I'm love, okay, I give you love, I want love back, you know what I'm saying? But that's not unconditional love. And the concept of service to others versus service to self only, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I hate to tell you this, even exists in our own soul family. There are people who are so wrapped up in themselves that it's all about them. Okay? And, they're not taking the initiative, for example. I mean, there are lots of good people, such as yourself. You know what I'm saying? But they don't understand how this program is useful to them.
Right.
It is a lot of exertion of energy for me that I don't need because I don't learn anything new. I don't gain anything new. It's all service. I don't understand that because that's service to others. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I have tried to entice them. I even started this program to start teaching people to give. But you can't ask people to give unless you give them something. So I'm giving them my time to ask the questions so they don't have to text on the thing, and you know what I'm saying? They have access to me. I mean, they want the or not. If they don't want it, then they wouldn't even be, watching this, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you have to want it.
This unconditional love and service, especially service, is the last thing humanity is going to learn because they are so deeply in there. I mean, you talk to some of these people, the way they express themselves, it's got a lot better than 10 years. I mean, my audience has changed tremendously. They're beginning to understand service to others. The acumen to it. It's not some sap thing that I'll do this for you. It's not charity. It's sympathy. Those concepts, I don't even believe in sympathy or charity. I believe instead of sympathy in empathy. Two different things. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in charity, and with my wife, we've done tremendous of that. She used to made her feel good by just signing a check. You know what I'm saying? But you sign a check, like the American Cancer Society, we're talking about it. I've been involved. My wife was involved. We actually were chairman of the variety of fundraising and stuff, and we brought in the money and give it to the Cancer Society. And what they did, they just used it for themselves. The last meeting I had with these guys, I yelled at them. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Because they were so concerned about the party that they're giving. I said, we're bringing $250,000. You want to spend $150,000 on the party? The hell with that.
Right.
And since I was the chair, I said, you can have, I don't recall what is it, $15,000 or $20,000. That's it. Oh, you have to pay money, or spend money to make money. It's rubbish. The people who are coming in here, they're coming for a good cause. They don't come there to sip on expensive champagne. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All this nonsense, but the whole society is inundated with all this service to self, which is the main characteristics of the negative aliens. And everything that we have is a bad habits we got from them. It's not from God.
Right.
God is totally alien to all this stuff.
Mhm.
And it's just learning about this stuff to see how creation can get decayed despite all the safe fail-safe mechanisms that God has put in place, which is okay because it ensures the survival of the cosmos and everything like this. But the local pains and sufferings and all this stuff, God cannot come in there and safeguard against all those because it's against the principle of free will. God has given you this to go and experience and experiment with the sojourn of life. If God would come in there and take that away from you, you become non. You have no identity. You have no personality, which you're
Right.
developing as you're going, on and on. And they're not supposed to be incarnation or reincarnation. There's one incarnation. You have to perpetually go. You should never die
Mhm.
unless you decide that I don't want this body and make a provision. Like Arcturians do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They've been in a body for 700 years or 1,000 years, and they decide they want to be female and not male. So they work their quantum of energy and they basically you can do all that stuff. I mean, these are way above our level of understanding. But anyway, going back to that, you've had these extreme polarities, and anything that's nanotechnology is for the purpose and purpose of feeding these satanic. I mean, look at satanism versus what God teaches us.
Right.
How can you even pedophilia? You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I mean, killing a small child because you want to eat its, underchrome or what is
Sure. Endocrine, yeah.
you know, it is absolutely disgusting. It's
Yeah.
but so different. So, but here's what it is. God is here. They haven't joined back, and I don't know if they even can anymore because they're just gone too far. So they've created the polarity formula. You got Father, you know what I'm saying, Arc or Divine Father. They've created Lucifer. You know what I'm saying? You've got the Divine Mother or Mother Arc. They have created the Black Madonna and Lilith or whatever, which is basically Dark Mother. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Even they created Trinity. Something that has they've mixed the Luciferism and the satanic stuff, and they created a character actually called Pindar, who's in charge of the planet Earth. He's the god of planet Earth, basically, and he has because when they create, it's information, it's not real. We have real. That energy that we have is tangible, it's organic, it's real. What they have is information.
Uh-huh.
Now they realize that light has information. We have holographic system. So they try to steal the ideologies and then reverse it, damage it. You know what I'm saying? Make them.
Uh-huh.
So bottom line, nanotechnology, AI technology is anti-God. I'm not talking like an evangelist. I'm talking with a very, very conscientious scientist.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So this is what's happened now. This nanotechnology is not going to work. And what they have done through this 5G technology, they're setting up the uh, infrastructure so they can interface with every one of us individually, so they take over us. And then you can say, why did they stop their parasitic feedings like that they had? Why didn't they just use us as batteries that they've done for millennia? because
Okay.
they're being evicted.
Yeah. I have a question. So I understand this takes place, but does this nanotechnology is inside the vaccine, a hydrogel type technology. Does that mean that even those that do not take the vaccine, they're still subject to being controlled, in other words, or they're under the influence?
There is something, every person who gets reincarnated or even incarnated. Some of us that had to come from higher dimensions to just come in here because we had something to do. I mean, there are these indigos, star seeds, Senate masters, and even guardian who are on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And we all had to also take the same package because that's the way to incarnate into the system because they control the whole system.
Uh-huh.
They control the holographic mechanics of it, plus all the inserts that they have put in, all the modifications that they have made, all the reversals that they've put into it. Okay? So as a result, I'm going to tell you this, you're not going to like it. You have a shadow self inside you.
Mm-hmm.
It's made out of black goo. It can only function on low, very extremely low frequencies. So you really need to resort to a lot of anger, violence.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? To bring your frequency way, way, way down to activate them. Because they're AI. AI can be totally dormant and harmless
Uh-huh.
until the frequencies hit, they're activated, they become alive. They don't become alive, you know what I'm saying, but they become activated. Are you with me?
Yes.
So there are such things as shadow selves inside you that they get activated when you indulge in all those self-destructive things. And in order to make sure you do this, they have all this mind control programming, they have genetic implants, they have frequency fences, they have a whole machinery. They put all their existence in corrupting human existence because they need us. They need to feed on us. Now it's come to a situation that they're getting evicted. You know what I'm saying? Father Ark is here, the royal family, all this Melchizedek, they're all here. They're all on the planet. The divine feminine is getting fixed. You know what I'm saying? The magnetic, everything they've been working on it tremendously. I mean, it's mind-boggling what they've done. Okay? But it's all in the etheric because that's where you need to work, to fight with them or work with them, okay? And it's dealing with the stargates that you don't even know where it is under the ocean, And some of these stargates that go all the way or they're supposed to go to the 12th, they never do now. To the 10th dimension they do. And so, they've been working with that. Our grid workers have been working into that. You know what I'm saying? Starseeds and imagers and stuff. And so they are losing the battle, and they're losing the battle, and it's come to a situation that they're running for their lives. So they're losing, their territory, so to speak. They look at Earth as their territory, as their what is it? Real estate property. So now they say this: we're going to totally control you. So you're under this hive mind, just like Borgs, and you can't do anything anymore because you have no control of your central nervous system. And they have some stupid other ideologies that they can come in and replace us, evict us from our bodies. It doesn't work because if we're evicted and they move in, they're AI, they are not real, and the body is going to necrotize. It's going to decay just the same way when we die and go. Their presence is not going to do anything. It could animate it to a certain way, like a zombie, but it can't last. This belongs to God. This technology belongs to God. This is real. The other one is artificial. It's all information, putting into computer, writing software programs, and getting the computer to do the bidding for them, called AI technology. Does that answer your?
Yes, sir. Very much. I have about a half a page more to read and to be finished.
Oh, cool. I thought you were done.
Oh, no, just I wanted to interrupt
I
you for a
forgot
second because the
there was
question was in my
two
mind. I
answers.
didn't want to lose it.
No, please do.
Okay. However, it seems to meet the needs of society run by artificial intelligence, which there is a need to interest to communicate with a bunch of cybernetic transhumanistic individuals than with regular human beings. And no doubt, this effort devised by the negative aliens is a prerequisite to overture to building the infrastructure that is literally put in place for the next phase of introducing or bringing artificial intelligence via cybernetics, transhumanisms, to this unconsciousness prison planet. It is no doubt that at this time, the very concept of mobile communication will find a new meaning, with this being the mobile units driven by the hierarchical hive infrastructure resembling the Star Trek Borg's collective. This concludes the paper. The Institute of Spiritual Sciences Incorporated, published in 2019. This article may be shared or posted on websites, Facebook pages, or any public forum only in its entirety and only if it is offered free of charge for the benefit of the public without any change of page charges, download fees, or membership charges. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. You did a great job, and you did a great job as a service. I hope that germinated a good feeling in your heart that I did something good today.
Absolutely.
Because your voice is there for them to hear it now. It's this, I'm thinking about doing, these are archives, they're going to stay. And you and me, even apart from this, hopefully they're going to stay. Hopefully the technology will be there to play it back. But you know what I'm saying? Which I think will be. But anyway. So thank you very much for having come, and you're welcome to continue this effort. If that germinates that feeling in your heart, and I'm sure you will be reading more and more, you'll have more questions anyway.
Yes.
Yeah,
I appreciate the opportunity to come here and to meet you online and talk with you. I follow your work, and I really, really enjoy it. I just can't read enough of it fast enough to get all of it in, but I enjoy it a lot. And it's really remarkable. So thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'd like to do it again at another time.
My pleasure. Anytime you want to come in, Darrel, you're welcome. You're a very, very wonderful, soul-seeking, important member of our soul family, and I think the other people should really look at you and be a role model for them, especially the ones who are coming to the soul family.
Well, I'm humbled by that, and I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
To see what we're about, you know what I'm saying? And
yes, sir.
And hopefully they'll contact you personally if they want to talk to you or ask questions or whatever. But you're welcome to come back. You tell me next time, text me and say, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do it again. I'm ready to do this. Here's what I want, because I need to schedule these, in time. So
yeah. The only thing I need to practice a little bit more, I'm not much of a reader. It's kind of a new concept for me, a new thing. So I'll probably have to read over it a few times to make sure I pronounce the words right and I'm hearing the right thing.
You did fine. Let me tell you something. For the first time, you did fine. What happens is that when you watch yourself on a video, which you can see it in about an hour or 2 hours, it's going to be online. And I'll send you a copy too. When you watch it, you say, I don't like the way I looked. I don't like I did this. You'll be very actually critical of yourself, overcritical.
Okay.
But there are certain things that you say, like you say, I'm not going to sit in that kitchen anymore. I'm going to go somewhere that's well lit, there's nice sunshine, but coming into this because I don't want to look washed out, whatever.
Sure.
I don't like to do this. So it's a learning process, and also what happens, you get more and more comfortable.
Right.
Next time, I'm hoping that if you enjoyed it this much, next time you enjoy it this much.
Yeah, probably so.
And more and more, and then you become a. And then once it goes to that point, you already actually started the whole sort of what is it, tradition in here. I may even have you to start doing it yourself. reading and all this stuff, and then call me back, because these are becoming very tedious. I have to set 2 hours,
Right.
but I have to be there. But you know, if the questions if you could read all this stuff and express opinion also as you go at the end, if that format can come to that I'm called, then I can come in on Zoom, and then the questions are all well laid out. What about this? Why did you say this? What do you mean by this? Da 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 da. And then also, I feel like this, just like you see what happens to comments on this Facebook, right?
Mhm.
This is another version of that, but I'm hoping to be a much more effective version of it. So,
Okay.
okay.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Nice meeting you, and I hope to get together and do it again.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Thank you very much for coming. And so now I'm going to just stop the recording at this point
Okay.
and say goodbye to all the audience.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.